soldiers. It depends which side of the camp you fall under. Some people would say they're idiots, dummies, losers, don't know anything better, desperate, fighting for a cause that's not worth fighting for, uneducated. I could go on and on talking about the people that enlist in the military, the perception. But let me tell you about soldiers. These are young men and women. Some of them are mothers and fathers. Most of them are husbands and wives. All of them are somebody's son or daughter. There's no difference between you and them. You, I mean you that's thinking about how much of a loser they are. The only big difference between you and them is a choice. There's so many reasons why today's generation, or even in the past, joined the military or not. And those reasons are valid for some people, but those reasons disappear. When you're in that bus on the way to your basic training, probably is the most terrible moment of your life. Not because you think basic combat training is going to be difficult, because it will be, for you at least, but it was the not knowing. Imagine when you're a little kid and you got in trouble, you did something terrible and your parents found out, and then your mom tells you, wait till your dad gets home. And that hours of waiting for your dad to get home, terrifying. That's how it feels while you're in that bus on your way to your basic training. And then you get to the training, it's really not that bad, you realize, and you think, oh, I've had worse before. That bus ride is probably the most terrifying. Now, a lot of people have different reasons for joining the military. None of it matters when you get off that bus. As a civilian, you're entitled to your own opinion. In fact, you can write a lot of comments in this video right now. Some of them might be positive and some of them might be negative. But for a second, put yourself on the soldier's shoes, getting ready to start basic combat training. In the bus, waiting for it to begin. Fast forward, deploy. See if you still type the same comments as you're typing about how terrible soldiers are, or this is a terrible war. And your points might be valid. It might be valid. But you look at different things in different lenses. Today's video is looking through the lens of a soldier. These are just young men and women like you and I, no different. The difference is the choice. You'll have gamers, you'll have gym buffs, you also have adventure seekers. You'll realize one thing: people. Soldiers are people, and you gotta love people. So when you're dealing with other soldiers, the responsibility gets even emphasized the more you rank up in the army, especially for those ones that get in trouble or, does dumb shit, and the first reaction you want is just smoke the crap out of them, or just, I don't know, use your imagination. But I urge you, kind of step back a little bit, breathe, and think about it. Why did that soldier do what he or she did? What led it to that? Maybe it's just dumb stupidity. Maybe it's just naive or young. Or maybe there's something more. You gotta understand, soldiers are people. And the problem is, sometimes us soldiers, us leaders, forget about that we're people and they're people. That the soldiers will lead are human beings, which should be treated, at the very least, with human decency. One time I was a young sergeant, E5, and we had this new platoon sergeant. You can tell he wants to get promoted. The way he walks, the way he talks to the first sergeant, he does want to get promoted, and that's fine, it's okay. We were at the motor pool. Some soldiers mess up. He wanted to have the connects arranged properly according to the layout plan that he actually made, which is, it's okay, that's fine.
Take cover behind those trees.
Is there a problem, Captain Sobel?
Who said that? Who broke silence?
I think it's Major Horton, sir.
Major Horton? What is he? Did he join us?
I think maybe he's moving between the platoons, sir. What is the goddamn holdup, Mr. Sobel?
He found some discrepancies, stuff that he didn't like. Who knows? I don't care really at this point. But because he found said discrepancy, he lost his shit. Like, literally got so mad, screaming. He yelled for the squad leader to come, another E5, in front of that squad, in front of us. he started making the sergeant do push-ups and flutter kicks, low crawl, while the soldiers are watching. So there's another NCO to another NCO, and that sergeant, since he's an E5, he's clearly outranked by the staff sergeant, so he started doing it. You can tell he hated it, he doesn't like it, and so that didn't really sit well with me. So I said something. He told that sergeant to stop, and he got so pissed off at me for questioning him in front of the soldiers.
What in the name of God are you
Should
doing
have
with
done,
my
maybe
company?
should have done that, but I don't regret it. And so he comes up to me. This dude was towering. I'm 5'6" in a good day. This dude is easy about 6'2", and he did the same thing. He ordered me to do some push-ups, drop down on the ground, do some push-ups in front of my soldiers. And at this point, I wasn't having it. But I also didn't want to be disrespectful to the rank, because you respect the rank, not the man. So I told him, respectfully, Sergeant, I'm not going to do it. And he was probably surprised and, to say the least, he did not know what to do at that point, because I think he was using intimidation, using his size maybe, or maybe how loud he can scream. But I just said no, respectfully. Of course, I stood at parade rest and said, no, Sergeant, I am not doing that. I will do that if we're out just you and me. Take me out, take me on the back. I'll do that, but not in front of my Joes. And he started screaming at me, saying, what'd you say to me, Sergeant? And I just said, you heard me. I earned the rank the same way as you did. And then finally he took me to the back. He said, come over here. Let's go back in the Connex. And then he calms down. He says, all right, look, man, I think we got off on the wrong foot. I just wanted the platoon to do better and, just, uphold the standards which I set. That's what he said. And I said, I understand. I completely agree with what you're trying to do. But I don't agree with you humiliating soldiers in front of other soldiers. It doesn't have to be a sergeant, but even worse, if that soldier is the sergeant and you're humiliating them in front of their soldiers, their own soldiers. And he says, I agree with you. You're right. I'm wrong. And then he got close to my face and said, but if you ever do that again in front of others, I will fuck you up. And I just looked at him back in his face with a straight face, no emotions. And I said, Roger. I tell you that because the army is not all sunshines and rainbows. You will meet a lot of bad leaders, toxic
Most of the
leaders.
men would never do this.
And these few sergeants convinced all of the other NCOs in your company to turn in
You
their
gotta understand,
stripes.
some toxic leaders are not bad leaders, and some bad leaders are not necessarily toxic leaders. And you'll come across to those. And I've known people and I've seen people leave the army because of that sole purpose. Everything else they can handle. They can handle waking up in the morning doing PT. They can handle sometimes it sucks. We gotta do sucky things in the army. I get it. But a lot of it they can't handle is toxic and bad leadership. And the worst part is those leaders that are toxic and bad.
I believe just a few of the sergeants may have felt their loyalty lay more to the platoon than to the company.
Don't even know they're doing it. And then when you confront them with it,
As staff sergeants, they have a great amount of influence, sir. But as I say, the rest are good men. I know them. I
they
can work
become
with them.
defensive and they justify in their heads that, oh, I'm just doing what I think is right for the unit. Having a mission is the difference between a soldier and a civilian. We have to accomplish our mission. However, later on in your career, you'll come across with what we call the creed of the non-commissioned officer. Basically, creed means faith or belief. This is a creed that we all have to live by as a non-commissioned officer, as a leader in the army. Now, the second paragraph of that creed says, competence is my watchword. My two basic responsibilities will be upmost in my mind: the accomplishment of the mission and the welfare of the soldiers. I'm gonna stop right there. It doesn't say mission is more important than the soldiers. So we just gotta make sure that we understand that those two goes hand in hand. They're both equally important. If you've accomplished something, it means it's results based, that you made your mission, you accomplished your mission. That's a past tense. Now the soldiers come in, that's the how. That's really the how. You can have little resources, but if you have the soldiers that are motivated and inspired, they're gonna do it. They're gonna make that happen. And sometimes they don't even know it yet, but they will. That people is your secret weapon. So as you grow up in the army, you gotta understand, you gotta deal with people like you and I that made the decision to serve this great country. And regardless of what the community says, what society says about what it is to be a soldier, soldiers are people, extraordinary people that decide to serve regardless of what other people thinks, regardless of what today's society is saying, and regardless of the politics. They join for any reason. Some of them are wrong, some of them are right. None of them are wrong and none of them are right. It doesn't matter. They wear the flag on the right sleeve, facing forward, which means always moving forward. That's a soldier. If you're thinking about enlisting in the army, watch this next so you can get educated on the process. Thanks for watching. Stay new. This is the High Speed FNG.